Hey yo, what is up, friends? Uh, it's me, your boy. We're back with another tier list that nobody asked for. Today, we're gonna be ranking the ghosts in Phasmophobia, uh, based on how much I enjoy seeing them in no evidence games. So, because playing the game with evidence is on is too easy, so I only play no evidence mode. Here we go. I don't know what order this is in. It was just a random order. I took this list from the internet. I didn't make it, but we're gonna go in this order. Starting with the Banshee. The Banshee is an okay ghost. Um, it's pretty fun to get the special scream. Um, but other than that, it's sometimes annoying when you're like sitting in your looping spot waiting for it to hunt and then it hunts on top of you because it can basically walk to you. And then sometimes it chooses not to walk to you um, when you want it to. Uh, Other than that, if you can find a good crouching looping spot, one where the ghost doesn't speed up, you can get it to scream in the paramic while it's chasing you, which is pretty fun to do. I'm going to put Banshee in A tier. I'm gonna put Banshee in B tier because sometimes it ends up being like one of the last ghosts that you haven't ruled out yet, and it refuses to scream. So I'm putting it in B for Banshee because sometimes it refuses to scream, and so you sometimes can't confirm it. Uh, Demon is gonna go into B tier as well. Uh, if you can walk into the house and have it immediately hunt, then you can know it's a demon, and then you can like easy peasy lemon squeezy. But that hardly ever happens, and it's just like a normal ghost. Other than that, it's basically a normal ghost. Other than that, it can hunt uh, at higher sanity. So it goes into B tier. It's not a great ghost, and it's not a bad ghost. The Diogen is going into S tier. This ghost is fantastic. You will never die playing against a Diogen if you have a looping spot, and I'm always happy to see one running at me at Mach 25 and then slowing down. Diogen, super good. Goryo, D. You know what? Fuck that. We're making an F tier. Making a fart trash. Fart trash garbage tier, and it's gonna go right into the fart trash garbage tier. The Goryo. Um, the only special thing about the Goryo in no evidence runs is that it doesn't change its ghost room, so it doesn't change its favorite room ever. Uh, but you might just get a ghost that doesn't change its favorite room ever, uh, which is incredibly annoying. Other than that, it's a completely normal ghost, um, and there's no other ways to tell if it's a Goryo. You just have to guess. Um, you know what? I'm gonna skip to Ure here. That also goes into the fart trash garbage tier. Similar reasons to Goryo. It has one defining uh, ability, and it's very rare, especially if you get the Ure in a room that doesn't have doors around it. You can spend like several tens of minutes waiting for something to happen, and it'll just never use its ability. So it's fart trash garbage. The Hantu, the Hantu I'm gonna put into A tier. It's one of the fast ghosts, uh, which is scary at times. Um, but it is pretty easy to tell during a hunt because if especially if you're hiding, you can hear it walking around the house and speeding up and slowing down. And the only ghost that can do that really unless it's a Raiju in some specific situations, is the Hantu. Uh, I have once mistaken a Hantu for a Raiju a few days ago, and I am embarrassed by it. But either way, Hantu is an A tier ghost. Pretty good. Also has a fun little not Easter egg, a fun little extra little tidbit. If you turn off the breaker, uh, it'll show freezing breath during the hunt, and that's another way you can confirm the Hantu's presence in your game. Next up, we got a Jinn. A Jinn is also an A tier ghost. I'm gonna put it in A tier because it's very easy to figure out. It's also very easy to rule out. So if it's not a Jinn, then it can turn off the breaker. Because Jinns can't turn off the breaker. Is somewhat easy to figure out a Jinn. Let's say you walk into the house, you know you have around, let's say, 90% sanity, and then you walk out and go to the truck, and the truck says you're at, 65% sanity, and you're like, well, a ghost event didn't happen, and nothing happened, so why am I such low sanity? The Jinn can press a button and drop your sanity by 25%, something like that, 20 to 25%, from wherever. And yes, that's pretty telling evidence that it's a Jinn. Other than that, if it sees you down a long hallway or something, it'll run at a trillion miles an hour, and that's an easy way to tell because the moment you get out of line of sight, it'll slow down back to normal speed. Um, yeah, good overall, a good ghost. Moving on, we're gonna get the Mare. I'm gonna put the Mare in C tier. It's not just a normal ghost. Oh, actually, well, it is just a normal ghost, and the only tell is that it turns off lights more often and has um, light light breaking events more often, and also has a fun little special ability where if you flick on a light, it has a chance to immediately flick it off, basically within a second, or within like half a second, really. And that's a fun little one. You flick on a light, and then it flicks it off, and you're like, oh, it's a mirror. Get out of here, unless you want to get all the objectives and whatever. The only reason it's not going to D or fart trash garbage is because it has a reverse tell. So it's sort of like the Jinn, where if the Jinn turns off, or if the ghost turns off the breaker, you can tell it's not a Jinn. If a ghost turns on a light, then you know it can't be a mare because mares can't turn on lights. So that is the only reason it's going into C tier. Other than that, you can just like spam light switches to figure it out, which is way more reliable than Goryo or Yurei. The Mimic, El Mimo, as some say, is going to go into S tier. It is super easy to figure out. Just kidding, it's going into A tier because it's fucking scary. The Mimic can become any ghost at any point in time. And if it becomes a Fae or a Raiju and you're not expecting it, or a Revenant and you're not expecting it, you're not going to have a good time. Not at all. Other than that, very easy to figure out a Mimic. You just bring a video cam into the room, and if you see ghost orbs, then it's a Mimic. And there's nothing else you have to do. You have figured out the ghost. And then it's up to you whether you want to risk your life switching between ghosts and stuff. Yeah, A tier. The Moroi. The Moroi is very easy to figure out, and because it's easy to figure out, I'm going to put it into A tier. Basically, the difference between A and B is how easy the ghosts are to figure out. And Moroi is a little bit easier than Banshee and Demon. It'll speed up the lower sanity you get, and it'll also curse you if you hear it on the paramic. or in a normal game with evidence, if it speaks on the spirit box, because that's one of its evidences, you will get cursed and your sanity drain speed will increase by a ton. Um, and yeah, it's pretty fun to get a hunt at low sanity and then like eat a pill and listen as the ghost's footsteps become slower because it gets slower at a higher sanity and faster at a lower sanity. And it gets very, very fast at 0 sanity. The Myling, I'm going to put the Myling in a B tier. It is a completely normal ghost, other than its hunt behavior is that you can hear it, uh, or rather, you can't hear it until it gets close to you, which I'm not always thinking about. Um, and I'm quite often pretty close to the ghost anyway, because I like to spam spall maps. And but like the tell is pretty telling. Um, yeah, B tier, normal ghost. The Obake going into A tier. The Obake is going into S tier. It's so fun to like loop a ghost and see it change the model, uh, and be like, oh, the Obake. Well, that's my only reason. The Oni is going into S tier, A tier. The Oni is going into S tier because it has a both a telling tell and uh, a guaranteed not tell. So if a ghost uses a ghost event that is the ghost ball event, then you can scratch out Oni because Onis cannot do that. Uh, and during hunts, Onis will appear or will be visible more often than a normal ghost, as in they will blink out of existence less often and for a shorter amount of time. So it'll basically look like a ghost event where the ghost is blinking sometimes. Uh, that makes Oni very easy to tell in hunts. And into S tier it goes because I like seeing the Oni. It is good. Also, which I forgot until just now, if you get hit by a ghost event by an Oni, you will lose 20% sanity instead of the normal 10. So that's easy to tell if you have your sanity monitor on in the truck. We're gonna start moving on a little faster here. We're at 13 minutes already, and we have a couple of ghosts left. I'm rambling, dude. I freaking love this game, man. What can I say? Onryo, we're gonna put Onryo in B tier. It has a really easy tell, but the tell requires a lot of setup and waiting. So, uh, other than that, I'm gonna put like I high B tier. I'm gonna put in high B tier because it also has a different sanity hunt threshold, which is at 60% instead of 50% for the normal ghosts, which also is telling of which ghost it could be. It is one of the quote unquote high sanity hunting ghosts. Uh, and that's another pretty easy tell for it. But it often ends up being one of the last ghosts to figure out with like the rest of these mare and banshee and demon. So in B tier it goes as a normal ghost. I don't dislike seeing it and I don't like seeing it. Next up we're gonna have the Phantom. The Phantom is gonna go into A tier because it is fun. It is very scary to get hunted by a phantom and to loop it because it is invisible like 99% of the time. So it's terrifying to loop, especially without any incense. Uh, but taking a picture of it is a good tell because if you take a picture of the ghost and the ghost appears in the photo, you can scratch off phantom, and if it disappears in the photo, you can confirm phantom, which is quite fun. Uh, and there goes into A tier. Next, we got the Poltergeist, which is going into S tier. It is such a fun ghost. to see it chuck objects at ludicrous speeds across the room, or to make a big boom of objects across the room, um, or make a tornado of objects while you're looping it around a table, or whatever you're looping it around. Um, Super fun ghost. I love the poltergeist. Next up, we have the Raiju. The Raiju is going into B tier. I am terrified of the Raiju. I hate that having turned on electronics makes the hunt sanity threshold higher. It is scary because when it starts hunting, you're like, oh shit, it's hunting, and then you start running away, and then it's running at 1,000,000 miles a second, and you're like, "Ah, ah," and then it kills you. Raiju is super scary. If I was going to do a scary ghost tier list, the Raiju would be uh, in high A or even S tier. Very scary ghost. Um, Other than that, it's got a few tells. The obviously electronics in the vicinity will speed it up, but also if it's far away from you, your electronics will start blinking way earlier uh, than what like way earlier than other ghosts in terms of proximity to the player. B tier it goes. I don't love it and I don't hate it. Revenant. The Revenant is a fun hunt ghost. We're gonna put it in S tier. S tier for the Revenant. Super scary. It walks very, very slow, and the moment it detects you or sees you, it will start sprinting like Usain Bolt uh, straight to the last location it saw you. Um, and it's terrifying, but it's very easy to tell. And it also has a lower hunt threshold at 40%. So that's another way to tell if it's a revenant in case you have non-functioning eyes or ears. The Shade is going into fart trash garbage tier. The Shade sucks a dick. It does literally nothing all game, uh, and then hunts like a normal ghost, and that's it. That's all it does. Uh, and sometimes you'll just get another ghost that does nothing all game, and then you think it's a Shade, and then it's not a Shade. Uh, it's, it's sometimes you'll have a Shade that does a ghost event immediately when you walk in the door, which has a like a 1% chance of happening. Um, and then you'll be like, oh, it's not a Shade, and then you'll go along the game and you'll use the cursed possession and you'll drop your sanity instantly, and then it'll behave like a normal ghost, and then you're gonna be like, oh well, this is a normal ghost, it must be a Yurei or a Goryo, and then it's a Shade, and then you're gonna kill yourself, and then Shade sucks. Fart trash garbage. Uh, Spirit is going into D tier. Spirit is often one of the last ghosts I figure out because I hate doing smudge tests, because smudge tests are just you smudge and then you have to wait for 3 minutes. If in the case that it's a spirit, you have to wait 3 minutes. Um, but in the case that it's any other ghost or a demon, you have to wait 60 to 120 seconds. Uh, and that's boring, and I hate that ability. Otherwise, it's a completely normal ghost. Can range from non-aggressive to aggressive, which is, the case for most of the ghosts. We're gonna move on. The Fae is going into A tier. Scary ghosts, very scary. Uh, high hunt sanity threshold of 75% at its lowest age. But if you age it up, then it goes down to 15%, which is terribly low. It also slows down a lot. And if you're a decent looper, you can figure out that it's a Fae by the fact that it doesn't speed up. So even when it's quick, or normal speed even, uh, normal speed to a little faster than normal speed, you can figure it out based on it not speeding up in line of sight. That's an easy tell. There's only a couple ghosts that don't speed up in line of sight, um, and it's one of them. Next, we're going to do the Twins. The Twins, pretty easy to tell. I'm going to put it into B tier. twin interactions, sort of rare. Uh, it's sort of easy tell. But, you know, twin interactions are usually not the way you figure out twins. Usually the way you figure out twins is through the hunts. You wait for a couple of hunts, and if some of the hunts are fast and some of the hunts are slow, then you got yourself your twins. And there's nothing really else to add on to that. The Wraith, I'm gonna put it also into B tier. Actually, it's gonna go into A tier. It has a very good, very easy negative tell, which is if it steps in salt, you can rule it out. Um, Easy peasy, just like that. The Wraith cannot step in salt. Other than that, I have the most deaths to Wraith because at some point I spammed a lot of 0 sanity runs, and the Wraith often will teleport to you and then hunt on top of you, and then you will die. Uh, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's really annoying when it teleports to you. And that's it. It's really easy to tell if it's a Wraith. And so it's going in A tier. But it's easy to tell, but uh it's not fun. So A tier it goes. Yokai, the final ghost. The yokai is going to go into high A tier, the highest of the A tiers, because it is so fun to yell at an oni, yokai. I'm such a silly guy, messing up my words. Uh, the yokai is what I meant to say. Is a fun ghost to have in hunts because you can, sit pretty close to it. You go, hey bitch, come here bitch, and it won't come to you because it can't hear you or detect your electronics unless you're very close to it. That makes the yokai a little cocksucking whore.